What's up for dinner?
I ain't eating.
Well, you're not watching TV.
I can't leave the house and now I can't watch TV.
Yeah, it's called being grounded.
Can't wait to move out.
What was that?
Next time I'll say it on the phone so you can hear me.
In Young Sheldon, we often see Mary as a bad, neglectful, and controlling mother towards her other two kids. And most of the show's narrative is framed that way as well. But the moment you stop seeing the show through Sheldon's point of view and start seeing it from Mary's perspective, you'll get an idea of how difficult things actually were for her. A lot of the videos that portray Georgie as a victim father get it completely wrong. The Mary we see is being narrated by Sheldon, who, let's be honest, has the emotional intelligence of a newborn. Because of that, we are mostly seeing Mary through the eyes of someone who never fully understood the emotional struggles of people around him. And this is further proven in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, where we get to see Mary from Georgie's point of view instead. If you rewatch both the shows side by side, you'll notice a drastic change in Mary's characterization. Now, whether you call that character development after her husband's death or simply a change in perspective is up to you. But today, in this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on Mary and explain why she was never as bad as people made her out to be. And let me know in the comments after watching this video if you agree or not, and also like the video and subscribe to the channel for the best sitcom character sketches on the internet. Mary Cooper was not the same Mary we know throughout her entire life. In the show, it is hinted many times that she was more like Missy than any of her other two kids. And while this is usually played as a gag by Connie, if we pay a little more attention to that detail, it could mean something much deeper. Maybe just like Missy, Mary was also neglected during her childhood. Not because there was someone like Sheldon taking all the attention, but maybe because Connie was simply that carefree and inattentive as a parent. This could explain why Mary used to do strange things and rebel when she was younger. If she was really similar to Missy, then maybe she was acting out for the same reason, to get attention. In psychology, there is something known as invisible child syndrome, which refers to a child who is emotionally left on their own and often overlooked by their family. In Young Sheldon, we see Missy experiencing something very similar. And as Mary is many times referred as being the same as Missy, it would not be surprising if she went through the same thing growing up. Another detail that supports this theory is the fact that even after having 3 children, Connie can only really go to one of them. And that is Mary, because she cannot afford to leave Texas. No one ever wonders why that is the case. What I think is that our lovely Mima was either not very careful with any of her children or gave most of the attention to 2 of them while neglecting Mary, because none of her children except Mary even makes an appearance in the show. Mima too is shown in the series as being very careless and greedy for money, often not knowing where to draw the line. It strongly adds up to my assumption. Next, when Mary was a teenager, according to Connie, she became more violent and rebellious, and maybe that was because she started getting attention outside her home, which is again a common sign of an emotionally neglected child. It will also explain why she was constantly getting into trouble and doing things that the adult Mary we know would never even think about doing. And it was during this phase of her life when she met Georgie and eventually got pregnant before marriage in her teens, which by the way was already a pretty difficult situation because I assume Georgie was not even properly employed at the time. And now Mary had to manage a household while preparing to become a mother. Then only a few years into her marriage, she became pregnant with twins and faced complications during her labor, which completely changed her. She turned religious and took a complete 180-degree turn in life. But that probably only brought even more stress because Georgie was definitely not helping much. And even after bringing Sheldon and Missy into the world, she got Sheldon as a surprise. And this is the point where Mary gets the most hate, that she sidelined Missy for Sheldon. But is that really the truth? See, Mary knew what it felt like to be neglected, and at the same time, she knew Sheldon was an emotionally absent child with an extremely high IQ. She knew he was different from other kids and that his intelligence could attract the attention of wrong people. So, she felt the need to always be there for him and protect him. According to some people, this approach was bad parenting. But from Mary's point of view, she was simply trying to keep her child safe. And that is why she was so controlling when it came to Sheldon. But when it came to Missy, I think Mary was trying to stop her from making the same mistakes she made when she was young. Young Missy saw that as control, which for the most part it was. But there was also a reason behind it. The problem was Georgie was not very helpful in balancing things out. I personally have never seen Georgie doing much parenting outside of a few episodes. Most of the time, it was Mary who was trying to keep everything together. And when your life is filled with unexpected problems from every direction, you naturally start trying to control whatever you can. And I think think that is exactly why Mary became so controlling in the first place. In episode 12 of season 1, when Sheldon asks his family for a computer, Georgie quickly gets out of the conversation by saying he does not have the money.
We're not getting a computer. We don't need your money.
And he is even irritated by Mary's decision to buy Sheldon a computer with her own savings, which by the way is quite crazy when you think about it. You have a genius living in your house, and a computer would only help him develop his talents even further. But Georgie did not seem to care much about that. In fact, for most of the show, Georgie did not really seem that invested in his family. Yeah, he had some pep talks with all of them, and there are several good moments with him, but at least when it came to Sheldon, it always felt a bit odd. Like he did not care about him nearly as much as he cared about Georgie and Missy, yet people ignore that and instead blame Mary for being selective parent. And this is not the only example. In episode 10 of season 2, when Sheldon asks his dad to teach him pranks and how to socialize, Georgie quickly gets annoyed with him and gives up on him far too easily. But we never really see Mary doing the same. And the argument often used against Mary that she only focuses on Sheldon is also quite baseless, because Mary herself knew she was not able to give enough time to Missy and actively tried to fix that. In episode 5 of season 2, she tried to bring Missy out of her isolation when she found out how neglected she may feel by spending an entire day with her and taking her out for a dinner.
Missy, we're gonna eat in a restaurant. Where would you like to go?
I get to pick? Why don't I get to pick?
Because your sister's getting a pick. It's not just about you in this house.
Then in season 4 episode 15, she breaks her own religious rules and takes Missy on a girls' night out to a bowling alley after Missy goes through her first breakup. And in season 5 episode 6, Mary defends her daughter in front of the entire church when people start shaming her.
You seem to know a lot about children for someone who has none of their own.
The same applies to Georgie as well. In episode 13 of season 2, she gave him advice on how to treat women better, and in episode 12 of season 3, she supports him when Georgie Sr. is angry about him dropping out of school, even appreciating his work ethic and hard-working spirit. Later on, despite being a deeply religious woman, she allows Mandy to stay with the Coopers during her pregnancy when she has nowhere else to go, and she continues supporting Georgie even after he becomes a father at just 18 years old. Not only this, but in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, we are shown just how caring she was towards Georgie. She literally put her house on collateral when Georgie had no other way of getting loan and nobody was willing to take a chance on him.
I'll have you know I own this house free and clear.
So?
So you need collateral. This is collateral.
She supported him through his business setbacks and was always there to reassure him whenever things were not going his way. And whenever the McAllisters insulted Georgie a little too much or looked down on him because of his background and lack of education, Mary was usually the first person to stand up for him and remind everyone of how hard he worked to provide for his family. She even went as far as refusing to come to certain family dinners because she felt her presence might upset Mandy's mother and create more problems for Georgie. And when it came time for family photos, she chose not to be in them because in her own eyes she did not really belong there and did not want to make things awkward for the new family Georgie was trying to build. She cared for each of her children, and unlike Georgie, who was only there for a few times. In conclusion, the reason I feel Mary gets so much hate all over the internet is because the story is largely shown from Sheldon's point of view, and Mary happens to be the person closest to Sheldon. And we know that even with his robotic memory, Sheldon tends to manipulate the stories he tells, keeping the parts he finds important or the parts where he was directly involved. Any random day where Mary did something for Georgie or Missy is not something Sheldon would necessarily talk about, but she must have done some things. Otherwise, Georgie and Missy would not have loved her as much as they clearly do. Even as adults, they keep coming back to her, and there are many instances, some of which I mentioned throughout this video, that shows she genuinely cared about all three of her children. And the reason I think Georgie was not as much of a victim as people make him out to be is because we have only seen a few instances of him being a great father, while a lot of his screen time consists of drinking, making his son parentified, watching football, and then drinking again, which was especially harmful considering he already had a weak heart. And I'm not saying Georgie was evil or anything. Yeah, all of the edits about him turning Sheldon into a brisket are funny gang, but jokes aside, the Brisket King was a decent father. He stood up for his kids and gave them advice whenever they needed it. My issue is not with Georgie's character, it is with the narrative that paints Georgie as a victim and Mary as a culprit. that never really felt right to me because Mary did not have an easy life either, and on top of her own struggles, she had to make sure everybody else was alright. And if we take Big Bang Theory into consideration, then Sheldon never liked his father. The cheating part may have been retconned in Young Sheldon, but that does not explain all the resentment Sheldon carried for years. There had to be other reasons behind it. But since fans ended up loving Georgie so much, I feel like showrunners never really explored that side of the story.